This is a bit of a rant. Almost every expat who returns to Canada will experience this. You find some food that was originally from the country where you had lived as an expat. The only thing is that the North American palate has transformed this food into something that might be named after the original dish, but it no longer looks or tastes like it should. This is the case for me with sushi. Walking down the street here in North America, we find sushi has become ubiquitous. Every supermarket sells it in neat plastic containers. Every street corner has a sushi restaurant that boasts its own unique version, and virtually every hipster restaurant has an item or two that they proudly claim to be delicious sushi. The only thing is that less than 5% of all sushi that I've seen here in North America is anything close to what is now, has ever been, or will ever be served in Japan. Now, this has not always been the case. My first experience with sushi was in Victoria in the 1980s. The restaurant, which has been closed for a while now, offered a simple menu of nigiri sushi, which is that lightly hand-pressed rectangles of rice with raw fish on top, along with a small assortment of rolled sushi with the nori wrapped around the outside of the rice. Subsequently, moving to Japan, what I found was almost identical to what I had in Victoria, albeit a bit better quality, which I'm guessing would probably be due to the difficulty in finding great ingredients back in Canada. Fast forward 30 years or so, what we find now in North America is sauce-laden, cream cheese-filled, half-baked, outside rolled and dipped in mayonnaise. There's even a sushi pizza. This is what I'm referring to as the burgerfication of sushi. Now, by my own admittance, I'm a sushi snob. Can't help it. I've been involved with Japanese tourism for the better part of 30 years. I lived in Japan for 10 years, and my lovely wife of 22 years is Japanese. To say that I must have had great sushi during the past 30 years would be an understatement to rock all understatements. After all, I worked in an industry which has as its sole goal to wow Japanese people with amazing and varied experiences, including rare culinary jewels. In fact, sushi is still, for the most part, much of a delicacy in Japan. For 30 years ago, the only places that sold it were small restaurants that offered it only at a counter or for really special occasions for delivery or takeout. It was expensive and delicate. Lots of men might go to these restaurants with clients or co-workers and would often come back home with a sample for the family. Siblings would fight over them. The point being, it was rare and it was a delicacy. Sushi chefs trained for years in just the art of cleaning and cooking extremely high-grade rice that it had probably purchased from a specialty supplier. After doing that for about 1,000 years, an apprentice might be invited to learn how to cut fish. This is both an art and a science. Every type of fish will have its own way of being cut. The angle of the knife and the thickness of the slice are all meticulously thought out to ensure that the consumer is able to enjoy the subtle flavors that, after millions of years of evolution, nature has imparted on any particular aquatic species. Special care is taken so that fish that might live close to the bottom of the ocean don't smell nor taste muddy, but would still maintain an almost earthy essence. Particular fish that might have a texture that some would consider to be tough will be sliced so that the meat might be easy to eat, but at the same time have an almost crispy characteristic. The idea is that you savor what nature has provided. The smell, texture, and taste of the actual fish all come into play. The chef will suggest an appropriate amount of soy sauce and might provide some wasabi for some varieties, but definitely not for all. The trained sushi chef after slicing the fish to exacting specifications, will grab just enough rice, not too much and not too little, just enough to become an accent to the main event, which is the fish. Over time, even in Japan, sushi has evolved to a degree. Kaiten sushi, which is that conveyor belt sushi, has really taken off, but what they serve, even at these places, still looks almost exactly like what it did 30 years ago. But over here, North America, evolution has really taken a dark corner. They say bad sushi is incredibly easy to make, but perfect sushi is impossible. With an almost zero barrier to the bad sushi industry, we now have a sushi restaurant on every street corner. Catering to the sugar, fat, and salt-craving palates of North Americans, the result is far from the delicate quest to highlight the taste that nature gave us to something almost unrecognizable. What we have now is as close as you can come to be a Big Mac burger with rice instead of a bun, complete with special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions. And yes, even the sesames are there. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't like what you find here in North America. After all, who doesn't like a whole lot of mayonnaise and sriracha smothered on top of avocado and cream cheese? In fact, my wife was quick to point out that she really likes it all, but she agrees. Just don't call it sushi. As I mentioned at the intro, if you've been an expat, you probably have a similar story with a food from the country where you lived, and I'd really love to hear about it. Share your story in the comments. Thanks for watching. Until next time.